Evening and welcome to the February 13th, 2018 Finance Committee meeting. Committee members present, President Kuchmarek, myself, Councilor Di Natale, Councilor Walsh, Councilor Boschman, also present, Councilor Squalia. We will start with 18-18. In order that there be and hereby is transferred from within the sum of $30,000 to be transferred from Assessor Personal Services, Department Head, and credited to Assessor Expenses, Contract Services. The recommendation is to hold this till the next Finance Committee meeting on February 27th to allow the assessing vendor to be present for questions on this order.
Motion to hold until the February 27th meeting.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to hold 18-18. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. It is held. We will skip over 1918 and we'll take up 020-18 and 021-18 for the fire department. 2018 is an order that the City of Fitchburg hereby approves the expenditure of funds from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Executive Office of Public Safety and Security Department of Fire Services grant in the approximate amount of $5,407 for the purpose of said grant, which is to continue to teach fire safety to children in elementary schools. Chief Roy.
Councilors, thank you very much. I sent everybody an email this afternoon with the year-end report that Lieutenant Jordan did. I hope everybody got it. If you didn't, let me know.
I didn't get it.
Okay, do you have, I gave the email, I got the email. Just give me a new email, Counselor, and I'll make sure you get it.
All right.
Yeah, I use it in the group one that comes through the city, so, Lieutenant Jordan does have that report tonight, and just a couple of pages worth of information that's worth reading. Obviously, this is our grants. Lieutenant Jordan applied for both these, the SAFE and Senior SAFE again, and I always tell you folks what a great job Phil does with these programs, and he's got 3 instructors that he's rotated over the years. He's got 3 new guys that he'll talk about tonight, but Phil's been doing this for so long, I can't even remember how long, and every year we get these grants, and it's small dollars, but it's spent in a big way. So I'll let Lieutenant Jordan just update you on where we're at.
I appreciate the kind words. These are the grants that are submitted down through the Department of Fire Services. It used to be just for kids. That's where we had the original grant in front of you right now. Now it's broken off, more expounded into a grant for children, and then it expounded off into a grant for senior citizens. In the children's grant that the chief's discussing, it's the grant that allows us to get into the school system. We target the first grade school ages, and we go in with 1 individual classroom lesson, and then we go in with the SAFE trailer, which you see housed here right in the city of Fitchburg. 20 first grade classes last year in the classrooms. We did 21 SAFE trailer teachings going to the schools, which simulates your home environment. They fill it with smoke. You would typically hear it as a smokehouse. And then we did 10 additional between senior events and between public safety events at like the airport and all the local providers who do public different things to the public to get us out there. We go out there with the Safe House and we help their efforts as well as teach about safety in our own communities. So it was a really good year. We have 3 young teachers right now. We have Nicholas Landry, we have Matt Fraticelli, we have Dave Williams. They're coming up through these programs. They have a lot of them. 2 of them have children of their own. They really know how to relate. They're doing a fantastic job in the school system, and we're trying to build fresh blood. So as the older gets older and retires, we have some new people to fill in that void. So we've really been excited about it.
President Kuchmarek.
Chief Lieutenant, congratulations once again on receiving this grant. I think it's crucial. In particular, I'm always pleased to see the funding for elderly and senior citizens of fire safety standards and some of the teachings they may have gotten when they went through school themselves have obviously changed, and I think as living situations change and adapt for them, or as they move into senior housing, I think it's critical that we educate them and continue to educate them about how to best keep themselves safe and what to do in these situations. So certainly commend you. Am I correct? There's no matching grant component from the city. This is just a straight grant.
Absolutely, both SAFER and Senior SAFER are straight grants. We don't have to put anything other than the time our people put in.
Wonderful. Thank you both.
Councilor Squalia.
For the senior program that you do. Approximately, how many trainings do you do, and where do you do them?
Want me to
Go ahead,
answer?
Phil. Yep.
Yeah, the senior safety was, we were going to their own homes in their own situations. We were starting to have a difficult time where we would set up these things at their own facilities. The chief had asked me to target on the high-rise facilities because we can target so many people in one group, 50 Day Street, 54 Wallace Ave. When it first started, it was really good, and then it started to fizzle out. So we started getting into more of the community group meetings, working with the city departments as far as the senior center. We went there. We went out to the Disabilities Day. We went out to the Fitchburg High School days. We went out to anything that reaches out to the seniors to draw them in, anything that reach out to the families to draw them in, like the airport. So it's not that we did not go to the facilities. We still went to the facilities. As a matter of fact, 350 Water Street just had a fantastic talk with about 30 people which showed up. But we started to hit the community events because we could get more people as a whole. As a matter of fact, you're going to see coming this year that we're working with some of the local organizations, the Masons Group. They're going to come in and we're going to have an open house on May 5th at the fire station, again, to bring in the family unit, because fire safety learning isn't just at the kid level. We primarily, if you look at the money, it's mostly towards the kids, because the kids reach out to so many more homes than we can as firefighters. So the senior safety, it's a little less on the fact of monetary, so we try to go out to the community events and get people as a family whole, where the kids and the adults can hear the talks together and go home and practice those safety plans that we talk about.
And we still do offer our services to the Sundial, Townview Towers, any of the facilities that want us will come in during their group meetings and.
So if they're interested in a demonstration from the fire department, they can just contact you?
Oh, absolutely.
And they do, they do, but as Phil said, after the first couple of years we did it, the numbers of people that were coming down to the community rooms in these buildings to participate were growing smaller, so the lieutenant's idea was to reach out, and we do more events at the senior center and places like that we can reach out to people.
And if I can, I think it's really important to keep in mind that as fire prevention grants run out and people call us, the chief has still been an active role in, hey, use your fire prevention office to go out there during the day, schedule an appointment, and teach these folks. So we do that as well. It doesn't stop because the money stops. We keep on as a city at that point.
This just helps supplement your program?
Absolutely
does.
correct.
And as Councilor Kuzmarek brought out, this is the two age groups that when you see fire fatalities and fire injuries, the younger population and the older population are the target populations for those type of injuries. So it's important we get out and reach out to them.
Thank you.
Council Brochman.
Number one, I was reading your report. You say there's about 33% senior citizens in Pittsburgh. Did I read that right?
That's Phil's report.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
that's
sounds right.
taken from a national average.
Oh,
Yeah, it's probably
national,
not
yeah.
Fitchburg.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, my other question, to go back, where you're just saying you try to go to public event. Have you ever thought about going to the churches and asking the churches if they can say this, and we'll have a meeting like at St. Joe's up after church, and the people can come to there, or, the different churches, because a lot of people don't go to those.
No, we haven't reached out to any churches as of yet.
We can do that, though, Council.
Typically, the nice thing about going to their own private homes is, as we're there giving a talk, I'll always go in with the instructors and we'll do a walkthrough, and we can kind of gear our discussions to their own personal living. Like we can, if they have elevators and they don't have stairways, we'll clue in on the elevators, we'll clue on the stairways, we'll clue on the fire extinguisher placements that are closest to their own apartment. So it's kind of a nice thing about going closer to their own home, that we can actually have a discussion that's geared toward what we see in their living areas. So not to say that a church group isn't important, but it is nicer to get closer to where they live so we can understand through a hazard assessment of our own.
We'll look into the religious groups, Council. Sure.
Yeah, the only reason why, because I have a lot of elderly in my area, and they own houses, so they don't live in apartment rises and that. So you're not gonna go, if I got 3,000 homes, you're not gonna go to every one 3,000. I thought you'd just have a blanket, like a meeting here, and explain different things.
And I think that's why we hit the senior center and a lot of the disability fairs. We always try to jump in there.
All right, thank you, Marcus.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilor
President.
Zarella has joined us, who's a member of the committee. President Kuchmarek.
And I'm sorry to offer suggestions because I know the work you do is extensive. I almost wonder if some of the elder care agencies or social services agencies that work with both the both the youth population, but primarily I'm thinking the elder care population. These are, outreach workers that spend, hours going into countless houses and facilities each day. And I wonder, if we might try to, when they do come together for these common things, maybe it's possible to put the lieutenant in front of them and talk about the resources, because, my wife's an elderly social worker, and she often speaks about, fire hazards and all kinds of hazards within some of these either facilities, but primarily within people's individual living quarters. And social workers often don't know where to turn or what resources might be at their disposal.
Yeah, we do actually interact with Montechusett Home Care, both from our end when we see a situation, or on their end when they see a situation, reporting back to us. It's mandatory reporting for us anyhow, on children and on elderly.
Wonderful.
Yep.
And
Thank you.
if you could, please report to her to contact me at my office. If there's an avenue of a group that gets together for a group meeting,
Sure.
I go out and I meet with the Landlord Association yearly to talk about landlord owners about the importance of smoke detectors and fire extinguishers. I would do the same for a healthcare worker, because anytime you can get a professional in there and notice there's a smoke detector missing, that's huge. I mean, it's the first avenue to fixing a problem.
I'd be happy to connect you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve 020 and 02118.
Motion made and seconded to approve 02018 and 02118. 2118 is for $2,813 fire service grant to teach senior citizens about the importance of safety and avoiding, in particular, cooking electrical fires. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Both are unanimous.
Thank you,
gentlemen.
councilors.
Thank you very much, Chief.
We will now go to 01918, in order that the city of Fitchburg hereby approves the expenditure of funds from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration Retail Standards Grant Program in the approximate amount of $3,000 for the purpose of said grant, which is to continue to provide funding for staff to attend FDA training, workshops, and seminars to maintain food inspection standards. Mr. Curry.
Good evening, councilors. First off, I'd like to introduce our food inspector. She's been with us a little over a year now, Stephanie Holinko. She is responsible for writing this grant. And very basically, this grant, through the FDA, provides FDA food inspection trainings, seminars, and various classes to standardize the food inspections according to their standards, and we'd like to follow in that direction. So very, very basic. The $3,000 isn't going to go very far. I believe some trainings are coming up in June, May or June. It'll put us in the right direction as training goes. There's really not much to it.
Motion to approve 01918.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to approve 01918. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Last is 02318, a petition to approve the attached Board of Health adopted fees for food service establishments based on the risk level of food establishments. I'm just going to read this briefly, ladies and gentlemen, from Mr. Curry. For the public's edification. Ladies and gentlemen, the undersigned petition your honorable body to revise the regulatory food permit fee schedule to reasonably reflect the service time the Fitchburg Health Department dedicates to the administrative duties, plan approval, permitting, and inspection of each food establishment. On August 3rd, 2017, the Fitchburg Board of Health unanimously voted on amendments to our food permit regulatory fee schedule in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 111, Section 31, Chapter 40, Section 22F, and Chapter 59, Section 20A. All food permit fees and plan reviews are non-refundable. The annual food establishment, and there's 4 risk levels, and the fees are attached to this documentation. Mr. Curry, Ms. Linkwell.
So, councilors, doing a permit fee review, I hope to get through the entire permit fees by the end of the year. I actually broke it up in pieces, so we would start with the food services. I actually feel that it's my duty towards the city, as far as permitting goes, to not actually fund the entire position. However, sort of have revenues and expenditures try to be as close as possible. Right now, we haven't changed these food fees for somewhat 20 years. So obviously salaries and the permits have separated, creating a large gap, probably about $20,000-$30,000. I think I estimate food permit revenues are around $20,000 annually, and obviously salaries are much more than double that. I want to thank Stephanie. It's been a difficult process to actually set permit fees in the food department, but she came up with a good idea, and actually based on the FDA regulations, to classify each food establishment according to risk level. There would be 4 risk levels. Risk level 1 would be more of a retail prepackaged food sales, probably only inspected once a year. That permit fee would be around $50. It is around $50 currently, so give or take a few dollars, it won't be a huge increase for most of these facilities. However, risk level 2 is also sort of the retail establishments whereby there is some minor food service in there. So that permit fee would probably, or it would double from last year's fees, more like $100 based on how much time we would actually spend in this facility. We're trying to base the fees on obviously how much time is spent in as far as inspection goes. Risk level 3 would probably be most restaurants within the city. I want to say previously the fees were based on seats in establishments. So the large chains that don't have a lot of seats but have a lot of takeout, we're paying small fees. So we're trying to wean away from the seats, and those are the facilities that we're paying $50, but we're spending hours and hours, 3 to 4 or 5 inspections annually. So we're actually taking a beating as far as time spent and revenue goes on these facilities. So some of these facilities might see a significant increase, might be 100%, really based on the facilities. Stephanie does have a list, and we probably could pass that out so you could take a look at it, of what some of the facilities pay now and what they would pay under this plan. And then obviously there's risk level 4, which is a large grocery store which has multiple inspections, delis, produce, et cetera, et cetera. That would be a $250 fee, and that would see a little bit of an increase also. It's difficult to classify and put a fee on each service, but I think really this gets us in the right direction. It doesn't close that revenue expenditure gap 100%, but it gets us in the right direction, and I think annually we review these and see how they work. But I think, why don't you pass, if the council's interested, we could pass out copies for everybody. Yep. You'll see what some of the facilities, the establishments out there pay now, and what the fees would do to change that.
Okay.
Some say stagnant, some are a few dollars, some are a significant increase. But the reason for the significant increase is because those are the facilities, excuse me, that we're spending the time in.
Thank you, Council.
So, my question for you both is, you said this hasn't changed in about 20 years.
Correct.
Is there any reason why there aren't these annual or every couple of year reviews of our fee structures? This question has been asked of other service departments, like building, for example, where why are we waiting 2 decades? And it's not really criticism, it's just, why aren't we checking these every couple of, forget every year, every couple of years or something to stay on pace?
Because the same, we're inspecting retail establishments, which may take an hour. They're paying the same fee as a restaurant that has 10 seats, which takes 3 to 4 hours to inspect. It was hard to put it was always comparing apples to oranges. It was hard to put some sort of fair system in place to establish where we spend our time. And I think this really does that.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not questioning that. I'm just saying, I hope, we're not gonna look at this again in another 20 years, that we,
I agree.
that we
I
look
agree.
at it
But
periodically.
that was my struggle, is
Yep.
to establish some sort of fair system where that retail establishment would end up paying $100, and we're only there an hour a year.
So Ms. Linkwell did a lot of the legwork to get this baseline
Correct.
started, and then it should be easier going forward now to
Correct.
assess the future impacts based on the baseline you've established. My second question is this a retroactive fee adjustment, or basically, when do these establishments pay these fees? Do they have to apply every year at a certain point, or?
Yes, the permit season currently runs from April to
It goes from
May
May
to
1st to April
April
30th.
30th. Yeah.
And applications are due for the permit renewal 30 days before expiration per code requirements. Food permits are required to be issued annually. There are application requirements regarding the content of the applications per code requirements every year. And as long as I'm here, I'll make a point to review our fee schedule annually or biannually, so I could be here again next year. And also, I will be paying attention to my time in these establishments based on the risk level, and also paying attention to what other communities are doing. So we will not go a decade or 2 decades.
So if
ever
these
again.
were enacted, so the next round is coming up May 1st, so 30 days before that, you require the applications. Would these fees take effect for that, for
That
this
is the
coming?
goal, yes.
That's the
Okay.
goal, yeah.
Did you have nobody submits them this early, right?
Nobody submits them, I'm sorry?
None of the establishments have already submitted their applications for?
correct.
No, we
Okay.
haven't sent them out yet. and
Okay.
Hopefully.
So you send them out, yep.
We're not going to do it until we hopefully get approval, council.
My next question is comparable to other cities and towns. I'm assuming that analysis was done with these fee structures to keep us competitive and not put us over the top, or, how does this fall in line with other municipalities around us?
Well, the city of Leominster has very similar fees to exactly what we have
Risk
now.
levels too?
They do not have the risk level.
Okay.
It is based on number of employees.
And also number of seats. I did a lot of research, and
Right.
what, for example, Leominster is doing is, it's a very antiquated and unfair system to establishments. So we're just trying to level
The playing field.
the playing field, and they're just still doing the antiquated old way. Charging someone by the number of employees they have, it makes no sense. Or number of seats, we were charging based on the number of registers. There's very little correlation between inspectional time and number of employees, or number of registers, or number of seats, or square footage of the facility. It really goes by what is the process, the manufacturing and the process in an establishment. Are they just selling prepackaged food, or are they doing specialized processing methods like reduced oxygen packaging, which we're going to be looking at those things. We are doing something that more progressive communities do, and our fees are most certainly lower than a lot of communities in this county, but we are with a careful look at this with our board. We felt that we should start with a gradual increase, because we really don't want to just go from like $50 to $300 overnight, So I'm thinking this year, this is a good start, and then next year, we're gonna revisit it again. If you feel that would be a good idea.
It sounds like it's a more modern approach, an objective approach, in that we are focusing on what these establishments provide in terms of services and how their manufacturing process is versus just an arbitrary number of people or seats. Obviously, an establishment that, like a grocery store, has many facets to it. You spend a lot more time at those establishments than you do at a prepackaged place. So to me, it makes sense in terms of the amount of time we spend at these places, the amount of times we have to go to them, that they would be charged a lesser fee if they are not really required to do much by way of inspection. But these other establishments that take up a lot of the Board of Health's time, obviously they would have to pay more. So I certainly support this. I also support the reviews of these in a constructive fashion, bearing in mind other cities and towns. Granted, it might be hard to assess comparables if they do more antiquated systems and not risk level systems, but I would hope that we still keep in mind the fact that we don't want to put ourselves out of a realm of competition where we're way above everybody else. We want to, maintain that
That
business-friendly
was
nature here.
also
and-
my hesitation and why I didn't address these fees more often. They're comparable to the city of Leominster, so someone could say that our fees are a bit higher than Leominster's.
But even so, 20 years is a very long time. I mean,
It
we
is.
haven't touched them in 20 years. So,
They obviously
our
haven't
costs
touched
have
theirs for
certainly
20
gone
years.
up in 20 years. So I mean, the fact that we haven't touched them in 20 years, it warrants this kind of level of scrutiny. I'm just hoping that we cut that down significantly as we go forward. That would be my input. Council Squalia.
So I like the change. It makes sense to the risk level 1, 2, 3, 4 compared to, like what you said, per register or per square footage or number of seats. But the increase that we are increasing, I mean, the majority of the proposal increases at almost quadruple, right? Like Fitchburg Jade pays 50, they will pay 200 this year. And that happens with a lot of them, 77 to 200, 50 to 200, 52 to 200. That seems like a really large jump. What kind of revenue are we adding on to the current $20,000 that we're making off these permit fees?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I'm working on closing the gap slowly. I realize some of them are a large increase. As I stated before, those are the facilities that we are spending the time at. We feel it's only fair that the facilities that we're spending the time with pay the appropriate fee. That's the whole idea of the permit system, why it was created 100 years ago.
And in addition, we don't only provide inspectional services, we provide a lot of outreach to these establishments, current, prospective, and new businesses. I have an open door policy. I communicate frequently with our food businesses through email, phone calls. I have meetings with them. I provide educational literature. We provide some supplies like sanitizer test strips. So for us, this is way more than our cost inspecting. It's time we're really spending, providing a specialized service. So we have core services like fire department, police department, DPW that's funded by taxpayer money, okay? This is a specialized service that should really be covered by the
Fees and permits.
by the fees and the permits, because at the end of the day, why should the taxpayers have to pay for these specialized services? Why should our elderly population who may have trouble paying their taxes and they may never even eat out because they can't afford to eat out, pay for my time helping these establishments and providing these establishments with educational literature? So we're really closing the gap, and we really think that it should be the responsibility of these food businesses to pay for our time and our services, and more than a regulatory service, but an educational service.
So are we talking about raising the revenue another 20,000, 30,000, 40,000?
I estimate probably 8 to 10.
8 to 10,000 additional, so we'll be totaling
So we'll-
30,000?
Probably be somewhere around 30.
And then you're saying next year you plan on increasing it further?
We'll take a hard look at how this goes, and obviously this is gonna be an easy pill to swallow for some establishments, but I think we can justify the jump.
And we're talking about raising the temporary food establishment permit from $25 all the way to $45. So that's for you know, with the, like the food trucks that come in for a one-day license, we're raising that fee to $45?
Correct.
Well,
And it al-
actually,
Oh, go ahead.
our goal with that is we really hope that these food trucks get annual permits. That's our goal. We want these food trucks to come in here multiple times a year, and a lot of them are. This is really incentive for them to do one application, one time, get an annual permit. You can come all you want to Fitchburg. And by raising that fee, we really hope they get the annual, which is for the food trucks. What do we have for
They
that?
got less fly-by-nighters and more of the.
So if we do, but if we did like a food truck, that would be less incentive for like a food truck festival.
Well, a lot of food trucks are,
And comparatively to our other cities and towns, Leominster is $25 for a one-day permit, Lunenburg is $20, Ashby is $20, Ashburnham is $20, Westminster is $45. So with our surrounding towns, we'd be right on par with the maximum around.
hopefully, once again, and I'm seeing this more and more, especially with River Styx and more festivals, even like school events. A lot of our food trucks are coming back, and a lot of them last year expressed, okay, I'm going to get annuals next year. And it would make sense for them financially. We also spend a lot of time doing temporary permit application, review. We have to also, a lot of clerical work also goes into entering in the information, printing out the permits, doing a lot of follow-up with these vendors coming in. So $45 really does cover the time we're spending on reviewing these establishments coming in for one day. But hopefully next year, most of them will get, the food truck specifically will get annuals. And
So
I
the goal would be to get them to get the $200 mobile food truck permit annually?
Yes, and they can come in as much as they want for the year.
And what is the current cost of the mobile food truck for the annual? Is that $200? Has that increased or?
It's 150, okay, for all food trucks. So for example, an ice cream truck that sells prepackaged food only pays 150. Under this fee schedule, they would only pay, because they're only selling prepackaged foods, $100 a year. So their fee would go down because we're not spending a lot of time on ice cream trucks that are serving only prepackaged ice cream. But the $200 a year, if they're going to get an annual, they do an application. We go out, we inspect 1 to 2 times a year, and hopefully they'll keep coming back, and hopefully they'll be more of a part of our food economy here. We really want to increase our food economy, and we hope that these food trucks want to spend more time here. And we're working on finding locations for our food trucks to operate, not just out in front of River Styx, but other places. And I've worked closely with Chief Martineau and parking enforcement to determine good, safe areas for food trucks to operate, such as on public right-of-ways. So I think there's going to be so many opportunities this year for food trucks to operate throughout the city. And I'm also open. I also would like to hear different locations, so when food trucks ask me, where can I go? If you have any ideas, bring it to me. We'll make it happen.
Maybe they make good money.
I'd also like to add, councilors, that there are plan review fees. That is not common with any other city. It is definitely a time-consuming issue when new establishments come in or when current establishments renovate. A plan review is a very important part to making sure that work done in the food kitchen is actually done to code before construction. A lot of times, repairs are needed to be made after the construction. It's too late. That's when we get involved. We're trying to avoid that. So we're trying to push a plan review. That makes sense?
Mr. Chair, I have to excuse myself to attend a planning board meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So our plan reviews, they're so important because it's our time to really start building a relationship with new and prospective food businesses, and they really are my high priority because it's our opportunity to ensure that they're on the right track to get opened, that we put our expectations out there and be a service to them on how they can best set up their establishment to meet code requirements and to avoid future violations. So we spend an enormous amount of time. A plan review fee typically would be a one-time only fee. Smaller renovations in existing establishments most likely would not have to go through a plan review fee, especially if they just wanted to replace a hand washing sink or do some small renovations. We wouldn't charge that. This is really intended for new establishments, for us to review plans and to have consultations with them, and it's a lot less than having a new establishment hire a food consultant. A lot of jurisdictions, a lot of health department jurisdictions require new establishments to hire restaurant consultants to walk them through the kitchen build-out process because of maybe lack of time on the side of the health department or lack of expertise. But I have that experience on building out kitchens, and I would rather give them our services here in the city to and have them use our services. And I know that a lot of our new businesses appreciate the time the health department spends with them on getting them squared away with everything.
Counselor Boschman.
Question for you. Level 4, risk 4 level. Boschman opens up a grocery store, and he's got a deli. He's got the fruits and vegetables, and he's got the regular shelves stacked, and you guys come in, and you're gonna charge me $250. All of a sudden, down the road, I decided to open up a bakery shop in my store, and I decided to sell food. So why don't we charge more? Now you get more work. Because Boschman opened up the deli, Boschman had the fruits and vegetables, and Boschman had the shelves stocked, and you guys checking the creamery and all that stuff. Now, years down the road, I want to have more clients coming in. I want to be a one-stop store, so I open up a bakery. I'm selling cakes, cupcakes, donuts, and everything. And next door, I'm selling hot wings, hamburgers, and stuff like that. Now, you already charged me $250 for what I have, and why aren't we charging, my question, why aren't we charging more? Because now your volume of work in that particular store has gone up from here to here.
I can help you with that. So, what we do in situations like that where there are sometimes multiple kiosks, sometimes multiple food vendors, we will oftentimes permit different sections. So say you have a retail store like a gas station, and within it they have a separate hot dog operation or something. We're doing separate permits, and it's really in their benefit because say someone got sick from that area and we had to close that area down, we wouldn't have to close the whole store down because they're separate permits. So, and actually, usually when I give people the option, do you want to have one permit for your whole establishment, or do you want different sections under separate permits, like hamburger shop right here, meat shop right here? A lot of people will choose to have separate permits, especially our larger institutions. So that's a way to go about it.
All right. Okay, now the other thing on the mobile, on the ice cream truck. I sold ice cream in the city of Pittsburgh, and I just want to tell you, I believe I paid $75 for my permit, not counting $101 for a peddler's license, and then I had to pay the city $75 to have the right to go up and down the streets and sell ice cream. So I just wanted to let you know that the prices ain't bad, because when we have a function like July 4th parade, and we get all these canteen trucks, believe me, they make money. And if they can't afford $45, and they think that's a lot of money, but don't come in because they know they're going to make money. That's why they come, because they make a lot of money.
Yeah, I speak to a lot of our food truck businesses, and they tell me, and I'm amazed. I'm just like, no, you didn't sell $5,000 worth of food out of there. And they're like, no, we sold $5,000 out of this little truck at this summer event, in Fitchburg.
Right.
So they do really well, a lot of them.
They're not starving, believe me.
Council Zarella.
Thank you. I am in favor of this. I like the idea that in general, where it's a specialized service like this, should be paid by the people who benefit rather than by everyone at large. I am slightly concerned about the magnitude of the increase for certain particular vendors, but I realize that it would also be too complicated to issue like case by case waivers or anything like that, so I'm okay with that. I did want to ask, is there any difference in terms of the expense that you would undergo or the time that you would take based on kitchen size? You know, if you have a given establishment that has, like, say the Chinese food in Park Hill, I forget what it's called. It's the one they've got a
Please.
yeah, yep. They've got a single flat top, a single fryer, versus say a kitchen the size of this room that has multiple ovens, does that take you substantially longer to inspect, or?
It really depends on the menu.
Okay.
Yeah, it really depends on the food that's being prepped.
Yeah, and the type of processing methods that they have, and we call it the flow of food.
Okay.
So it just depends on if they have a specialized processee in there. It could be a large bakery doing a relatively simple manufacturing process. And Sam, I just wanted to point out, seasonal food establishment, half the cost of annual food permit. So some of our food truck vendors who want to come here for half the year would say they just wanted to come during like the spring and summer months, so 6 months or something. It would be half the cost. So it would be $100 annually for a food truck to operate 6 months. So.
Counselor Squalia.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor
Sam's
Squalia. I'm sorry. Thank you, Steve.
On that subject, actually, I was wondering if it would make sense to, rather than just doing a 12-month or 6-month option, just prorate by the month. Say I want to operate from, say, June through August, so I pay a quarter the cost because it's only 3 months, or would that not make sense in terms of the actual time spent on?
It wouldn't make sense just because of the time you spend reviewing applications and issuing the applications and
Okay.
doing that inspection. So, but I think
All
we
right.
could manage the seasonal with 6 months or less per year.
That makes sense. And my last point I just wanted to make was, as we're going through further review on this, one thing I personally would like to see if you come back here next year is sort of a few case comparisons between here and other cities and towns, even though their fees are not apples to apples with the way you've got it laid out here. If you were to take a restaurant in Leominster that's comparable to a restaurant in Fitchburg, how much did they pay versus how much did our place pay?
I could
That
supply
way-
you that now.
Okay, that would be,
I have some now too. I have it for Westminster and Worcester.
okay.
And then
That's-
Leominster is pretty much like the same as what we have now. So, but you're welcome to take a look at these from Worcester and Westminster.
All right, yeah, I don't need to see them right now, but I do think that's good info to have going forward, just to keep a thumb on it and
Yes,
make sure we're not getting too far apart from any of the surrounding communities.
sure.
Fair enough.
So the natural inclination when you hear the word increase is everybody raises their eyebrows. The things that we need to look at is, how does this compare to neighboring cities and towns? Are we still within a line of competition? And the answer is yes. We haven't touched these in 2 decades. That is why some of these increases seem exorbitant, but when you haven't touched them in 20 years, they really are not. Some of these establishments that are seeing triple or quadruple increases, it amounts to $12 a month. That's the most. A lot of these establishments on this list are going to see anywhere from $8 a month increase to $2 a month, and there's even one that's $1.47. So most of these establishments are going to see a monthly increase of less than $10. Some even less than that. There are some, though, that will see around $12. $12, it looks like from this list, is the maximum increase per month for this annual fee. Now, I'm not saying that to belittle the increase. I am just trying to bring perspective to the public on what we're talking about here, because when you say that we're quadrupling or tripling, let's put it in the proper context. Some of these increases are less than $10 a month. Not to mention they're in line with other cities and towns. And again, not to say anybody's gotten a free ride, but again, no change in 20 years. So we're just trying to modernize our system and bring it up to a level that makes sense with the amount of services that we provide, which I firmly believe taxpayers would embrace, because the more money we raise through these fees based on the level of services we provide, the less we have to go to them. So I'm not advocating that every year, every 2 years, we jack these up. I am saying, like anything else that you do in business, you annually or biannually review everybody else, see how you're running up to. And yes, there are components such as how much time we spend, but we also have to be cognizant of what are other people spending too. Because if we spend a lot of time at certain establishments, but our fee right now is in line with our neighboring cities and towns, I would be less inclined to support increasing them if it puts us out of competitiveness. And it may not, because it's a small number month to month, but you know, it adds up after a while. So this is a 20-year analysis in the making that looks huge right now, but it's only because we haven't done anything in 2 decades. And I'm hoping we don't do that again. But the level of services that we provide to these establishments far exceeds what they've had to pay. And there are some establishments on this list that are actually going to see decreases.
Some other reason.
I won't name them, but there's 5 or 6 on this list that will see decreases in their annual fees. Most will see increases, but again, a lot of them are $3 a month, $4 a month, $8 a month, $2 a month, and then the highest is around $12.50 a month. But again, that's because they provide a level of service that requires our inspection group to spend a lot of time there in order to ensure food safety and quality. So I am not against this. I would be against this if we had this review this year and the next year you jacked it up triple or quadruple. That's a different story to me. But the fact that it's been 2 decades, it doesn't surprise me that some of these are that sizable from a percentage viewpoint, not necessarily from a monetary viewpoint. Councilor Walsh.
Thank you. I think, too, that it seems from what Mr. Curry and Ms. Holenko have pointed out, that the level of service provided goes a step further as well. So, I mean, I think that that's important to note, that they're also getting, information on how to make their establishment better, safer going forward. And I think that's critical as well. So, thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to approve and seconded to adopt 02318. Any questions on the petition from committee members? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, councilors.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
You're welcome.